Welcome to the Perfect Dose podcast. We dive into everything you need to know about skincare treatments, wellness tips, and skincare routines so you can look and feel your best. If this sounds like you, make sure you hit subscribe so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes. I'm your host, Dr. Kristen Herzog, board-certified nurse practitioner and injection specialist. My med spa, The Perfect Dose, is located in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you are interested in becoming a patient and seeing me in practice, make sure you head straight to my website. If you're a medical provider and you want to stay up to date on the latest trends, techniques, have access to my protocols, articles, and business tips, make sure you follow me on Patreon at The Perfect Dose. For everyone else, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Perfect Dose. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Perfect Dose podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kristen Herzog, board-certified nurse practitioner and injection specialist. I am so excited to get into this episode today, especially with all of the noise on social media. A lot of you guys may or may not have heard the most recent podcast that came out with Lauren Bostic, who's one of my favorite podcasts and bloggers. I am obsessed with her. So this is nothing against her whatsoever. She had a guest on her podcast. Organic Bunny is what she's known as on social media. And there was just a lot of misinformation that was presented as fact, which it is not fact, it is an opinion. And it went pretty viral all over social media. So I wanted to do an episode dedicated to responding to this because I think it is so important to understand that Botox is a choice, right? It is not a need. It is a want. It is an elective procedure. Botox isn't for everyone. You have to be the right patient. You have to have the right legitimate product, and you also have to have the right injector. So there are factors that come into play when choosing whether or not to get a Botox treatment. But I want to educate you guys and make sure that you go into this informed. That is the most important thing to me, is that you are educated on facts and what is fact, because there was a lot of misinformation, a lot of mistruths out there. And again, everybody is entitled to an opinion. So if you have an opinion about Botox and you want to say Botox is toxic, you shouldn't get Botox, age naturally, great. That's your opinion. If you love Botox and you want to get it every 3 to 4 months, amazing, great. That is an opinion. But we need to understand that this is a drug, it is a medication, and there are facts and studies that back up facts. So this podcast is going to be completely dedicated to presenting you guys with facts. So then you can go out there and make an informed decision about whether or not you feel comfortable and safe getting a Botox treatment. So let's get into it. So I want to start out by saying I just got back from a pretty incredible program. I actually flew out to California and got to meet with the chief scientific officer of Botox himself. He is incredible, a wealth of knowledge. His name is Dr. Mitchell Bryn. You guys can look this up and verify it. I was chosen as one of 33 injectors in the nation, and there are hundreds and thousands of injectors, you guys. There's a lot of injectors. One of 33, which is pretty unique, to go and experience what it is like to be in a lab where Botox is made, to get to actually ask information from the scientists themselves about Botox, and to actually have data and clinical studies to support that. So I feel super excited to present this information to you guys, especially after having this entire weekend dedicated to mastering the science of Botox. So first, I want to start out with, what is Botox? So Botox, botulinum toxin, is a toxin, okay? Yes, Botox is a toxin. However, this toxin is taken and it is highly purified and manufactured. So what that means is you are not just getting injected with a straight up toxin, okay? It is going through an extensive purification process where they are purifying this bacteria to get the core active toxin of what they want to deliver. And it is a teeny tiny amount, okay, in comparison to the amount that you would need to truly cause toxicity. So very tiny dose, highly purified. It is then sterilized, and every single vial is checked to make sure there is no live active bacteria in the vial, okay? And the dose that you are getting is not a lethal dose. It actually gets tested in a lab. It used to get tested on mice, but now they have a new approach to where they test on cell assays. And it's really cool because they are able to test on cells that replicate humans and mice and actually see exactly how it is impacting the cell. And so the dose that is being tested is not a lethal dose. It is a fraction of the dose that would need to be lethal in anyone. Okay. So it is highly purified. Dose is everything. It is a teeny amount. It is microscopic. And in fact, when you get this vial of Botox, it's clear. It looks like there's nothing in it. So that's why it needs to be reconstituted with bacteriostatic saline prior to injecting, because you literally can't just inject Botox. And I'm telling you guys, it is a small, highly purified amount. So think about polynucleotides right now. Polynucleotides are salmon sperm DNA, okay? They're derived from salmon sperm DNA, and we are putting those on topically, microneedling them in to achieve skin benefits. And they're all the hype right now on social media. Everybody's doing it. Jennifer Aniston, Denise Richards, just to name a few. Everybody is doing salmon sperm facials. And are we just going out into the sea, fishing for some salmon and getting their sperm out and putting it on people's faces? Absolutely not. We are getting this sample and then going through an extensive purification process to make sure that this is safe, that it is effective and efficacious for use, but we are not just getting this product straight from the source. It's going through a form of sterilization, a form of purification to make sure that you're getting the benefits from that product, but you're not just getting that straight product. So that is kind of the process that's happening with Botox. And so that's what Botox is. It goes through this high purification process. We then get it into a vial. It gets tested extensively for sterility. It is literally tested to the exact unit. Okay, you guys, like they are checking to make sure that there are 100 units in the vial of Botox exactly, not a little bit more, not a little bit less. They are testing this. And if there's not 100 units in the vial, they're throwing it away. So the process is so extensive. It is down to the science. Okay. So rest assured, these vials go through extensive testing. So then now that we understand the purification process, let's talk about what happens when it's injected. So Botox is then injected into the muscle. And from there, it is going to block the nerve signal. And to get into the weeds a little bit with you guys, I want to make this basic so everybody understands, but I think it's important to really understand a little bit of science. So acetylcholine is this neurotransmitter that makes your muscles contract. So this neurotransmitter is firing. Muscles are contracting, okay? Botox is going to block the release of that neurotransmitter. So think blocking the signal. Therefore, that neurotransmitter is not being released. It's not firing. So your muscle is not contracting. Therefore, you do not have lines, dynamic lines. Okay. And dynamic lines are lines at movement. So think when I frown, when I raise, those lines that are on my forehead, and mine are very prominent right now because I'm pregnant. I've not had Botox in 5 months. So you can see mine, but these are dynamic lines. And that happens because of muscle contraction. So when that neurotransmitter is no longer firing, muscle isn't contracting. So there's a temporary paralysis or weakening. And again, temporary, there's no permanence in this, because what happens is your body breaks down the Botox. And over time, your muscle starts to contract again. That neurotransmitter starts to refire and you get muscle contraction, your lines come back. And this happens over the course of 12 weeks. So Botox is injected. It has a peak effect at 2 weeks. And then the Botox starts to wear off. The neurotransmitter starts to fire again. Muscle starts to contract, and you can safely retreat at 12 weeks. So the clinical trials that were performed on Botox to determine its safety and determine its efficacy and how Botox is to be dosed, okay? There were extensive clinical trials. I mean, Botox is the most studied drug in the world. And so think about this, you guys. We have so many drugs in the world right now. Everybody's on a craze with GLPs and peptides and all of these things. These things have been around for a quarter of the time that Botox has been around. I mean, we discovered Botox in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. I don't have an exact date, but it was discovered a long time ago. And then it has been studied and used both therapeutically and cosmetically. Okay. So Botox is not just used for wrinkles. In fact, it has 16 FDA approvals, and each FDA approval, to put it in perspective for you guys, costs like $60 million. it is expensive to get an FDA approval. So not only does the company that makes Botox value your safety, you guys, they value it so much to get indications for multiple areas, because really you just need one FDA approval in order to be able to use it in the United States. But Botox has 16. That is incredible. 12 are therapeutic, 4 are cosmetic. So there is a ton of research on this. In fact, there's over 27,000 case studies on Botox and Botox cosmetic, 6,500 published articles on Botox cosmetic. So a lot of data, you guys. And this is just one neuromodulator. There are other neuromodulators on the market. There's Dysport, there's Jeuveau, there is Xeomin. So a lot of other neuromodulators also have clinical data as well to support their safety and efficacy. So just think about that from a perspective of, wow, the most studied drug on the planet. So we know this is super, super effective, and we know that dosing matters. We know what is safe. So what is dosing? What is safe when it comes to Botox? So on label, which means the FDA studied this label and they said, yes, this is the amount that we have studied that works. For the upper face is 64 units cosmetically. For the full face, it's about 100 units cosmetically. Okay, so this is what was studied with all of this data that's out there. So think about that, you guys. There are over 150 million patients that have been treated with Botox in the last 30 years. That is a huge amount. And we have studied this dosing for over 30 years. So we have lots of clinical data to back this up. Now, therapeutically, they have studied and FDA has approved 400 units for therapeutic uses like muscle spasticity, okay? Another therapeutic use, for example, is migraines, and 155 units are FDA approved for migraine usage. So we know that safely we can treat with up to 400 units, and that effects are local. There have been no systemic effects ever reported in Botox cosmetic, okay? So cosmetically, in the units that are up to 100 plus or minus, right? No systemic effects have ever been reported. Now, has there been systemic effects ever reported? Yes, there's actually some data that showed that there were systemic effects with up to 600 units of Botox delivered at a time. And that is a therapeutic use, okay? So it's kind of like, as we learned these things, we had to figure out over time what dose works, right? We have effective dosing and lethal dosing for every drug. We have lethal dosing with penicillin. You can die from taking too much aspirin, right? Like anything in too big of a quantity can be lethal. So yes, there is a black box warning on Botox. There is a black box warning on a lot of medications out there. So it's important that you are being dosed appropriately. From a cosmetic standpoint though, you guys, you're getting anywhere from 30 units to 100, maybe 150 if you're treating migraines with cosmetic at the same time, but well within the limits of what has been studied. So you can rest assured that that dose is safe and effective. I like to back everything up that I'm saying with science. That way you guys know I'm not just pulling these numbers out. So there has never been a reported death from Botox cosmetic ever, okay? There has been 33,000 cases out of 150 million, okay, have reported adverse events from Botox. So common side effects. Nobody died. And all of those side effects went away. That means they were self-limiting. So every adverse event that was reported healed, okay? Adverse events, what can you expect when you're getting Botox? So common side effects, headache. That's typically self-limiting. It goes away anywhere from 3 to 5 days. Some people, it has more of a lingering effect. But again, self-limiting, no cases have ever been reported longer than 12 weeks or 3 months. Other side effects, you could expect maybe an eyelid ptosis. So like a droopy eyelid, a droopy brow. These are common side effects, not even super common, you guys. It's rare to have these things occur, but they can. And the good thing is if they do occur, it goes away. Everything is self-limited. I am a highly trained injector. I've injected over 4,000 patients. Have I had some patients have a headache? Yes. Have they all gone away? Yes. Have I had anybody ever report any long-term side effects from Botox? No. And in fact, I've had one Botox complication ever, my entire injectable career. And I say this to you guys because I want to be an open book. I think being honest is so important. So I have had one droopy eyelid out of a 4,000 patients, okay? And it's something that happened because of the spread of Botox. So sometimes Botox can spread not systemically, but in the muscle when we're injecting it. And it can accidentally or inadvertently affect the wrong muscle. And that's what happened. So this lasted about 6 weeks. We took care of her, never happened again. She's still my patient to this day. So 1 out of 4,000, and it was a temporary side effect. So yes, these things can occur, and Botox is not for everyone. It's important that you go over your medical history with your injector, that you see a qualified medical provider, and that you're getting injected with real Botox. And this is important because in 2024, there were 19 cases of hospitalizations with Botox. And guess what? It was fake Botox. It wasn't real Botox. All of those patients survived. Nobody died, but it was fake. So it's important that you are getting injected with the real stuff. So if you see pricing that's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Don't go there. This is your face, and this is a serious medication that has to be handled with care. Right product, which means real product. Right injector, which means licensed, trained, experienced, continued education. And right dosing, which means within the studied amounts per session and not getting too much Botox. If you eat too much sourdough bread, it can be bad. If you eat too much fruit, it can be bad. Too much of anything can be a problem. So it's important that you stay within the approved dosing. So again, that's about 100 units for the full face. Give or take, right? Because we do 155 for migraines, definitely no more than 200 units, I would say, per session, and not getting Botox more than 4 times a year. So you don't need to be getting 100 units every month. No, the studied dosing is 64 to 100 units, so upper face or full face. So we'll go with 100 units, and it is for 12 weeks because that medication is still working. So it's super important that we get injected with the right product, right dose, with the right injector. Now, how do you know you're getting injected with real Botox? So number one, price. You need to make sure you're not paying $4 a unit. Botox is going to cost over $7 a unit, you guys, from a provider standpoint. And that doesn't include commission, supplies, needles, all of the things. I have to pay my people. I have to keep my lights on. Botox is not cheap. So it's important to understand you have to be paying for the legitimate product. Another thing that's really cool that's actually on the Botox vial. So any form of vial that you look at has a lot number. So you can actually look and see the lot number and check that that lot number is licensed in the company. So you could call and be like, hey, is this lot number in your company, right? Yes, they can show you the lot number. The other thing is there's actually a hologram on Botox, which is really cool. So you can see that it is a real product. So I think that's super important to understand. You have to be injected with the right product. You can ask your provider, hey, what is your license? I want to look you up. You can literally look me up. If you look up Kristen Herzog in the Arizona Board of Nurse Practitioners, you will see my license come up. So you can verify that I'm a licensed provider, okay? So super important things that we are checking who we're seeing. Check before and afters. Look at patient reviews, right? Ask to see these before and afters. Ask your injector, how many trainings do you go to a year? What are you doing for continued education? Are you reading articles? Are you attending conferences? Things like that are very important to be asking your provider before they inject something in your face. So I want to switch gears slightly because there was one other thing that was stated on this podcast that I have to address. So she stated that Botox can cross the blood-brain barrier and that Botox was used in war. And so I want to clear that up really quick because it's not fact. So in the early 1900s, did several countries attempt to use Botox in war? Yes. Were they successful? No. So it was not actually used in war ever. They were never, ever successful. The other thing is, does it cross the blood-brain barrier? And the answer is no. The Botox protein is too big to cross the blood-brain barrier. And this is important because in order to cross the blood-brain barrier, a specific molecule has to be a certain size and it has to follow certain specific pathways. And the protein in Botox is too big, so it does not. So that can address that. It's not getting to your brain. Something that is really interesting though is there are some exploratory studies. So nothing is official right now. It's just exploratory, meaning they're investigating, right? That Botox can have an indirect effect on the brain. So I think that's where some of this misconception is happening. Is like Botox is affecting your brain. It's not affecting your brain. It's not getting to your brain, but there are some exploratory studies that are looking at the indirect effects of Botox on the brain. And that's because of facial expression. And they're seeing that facial expression impacts the brain. So you'll see some really cool studies starting to come out about like Botox impacting depression. And again, it's very difficult. These studies are self-limited, so nothing is official. There's no data that's like, yes, it's having an indirect effect on the brain. They're just exploring it right now, but that it could, because as you're not moving your face as much, that could send certain signals to your brain. So I think that's really cool. And for me, something that I'm really excited to see as this continues to get explored and studied is that what is the impact of driving up self-confidence, right, on the brain? It's going to have a positive impact, in my opinion, because if you feel good, right, you're feeling good, you're presenting yourself better to the world, you're feeling more confident because your makeup isn't creasing in your lines or your jawline looks tighter. Maybe you were super self-conscious because when you smiled, your gum showed, like me. These are really cool things that are happening. So when people say, oh my gosh, it's so vain to use Botox, you're vain if you use Botox, I think that is absolutely insane. Why is it okay to spend a ton of money and have the nicest countertops in your kitchen or have the nicest floors in your house and nobody judges you for being vain? In fact, that's so cool. You have the coolest counters and they're all granite or whatever, right? But it's not okay to invest that money to feel good about yourself. You're considered vain. I think that is completely wrong. It's backwards. We are allowed to feel good, right? I'm allowed to do something that makes me feel happy. I'm allowed to do something that improves my confidence, and it's not changing my face. It's making me feel better. It is enhancing my face. And I do that for so many patients. The amount of texts that I get that are like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better looking in the mirror. I am so confident. I actually succeeded in my interview because of the confidence that you gave me. Like, it is absolutely amazing. And again, Botox is a choice. You are not being forced to get Botox, okay? There are risks with everything, and it's important that your provider explains those risks to you and make sure that you are the right patient for this product. Most people are the right patient for this product, and it can have so many amazing benefits, so many amazing outcomes. I've been getting Botox myself, you guys, since I was 22. I'm 33, so literally like 11 years, and I've never had any issues with Botox. I've injected over 4,000 patients, never had issues. My one temporary complication that resolved, but no long-term impacts whatsoever, right? I haven't had Botox in 5 months now because I'm 20 weeks pregnant. I'm half baked. So you can see my face doesn't look worse or crazy because I haven't done any injectables. Yes, I'm a little bit swollen right now because I'm pregnant, but like the lines on my face are starting to come back. My face isn't paralyzed. My muscles or lines aren't worse because I've been getting Botox for so long. In fact, they're better. I feel like I look better at rest now, not getting Botox for 5 months, than I did before I started getting Botox. So to me, it's something that could really enhance people's lives. It is awesome. It is a choice. And I really hope that after listening to this podcast, you guys feel educated and informed that whether you choose to get Botox or choose not to get Botox, it is a choice and you have every right to have an opinion. Everybody can age the way they want to age, but you need to be armed with the facts that Botox is not toxic. It's not crossing your blood-brain barrier. It wasn't used in war. We are not poisoning our bodies, and we're not having any systemic effects with cosmetic use. Nobody's dying from cosmetic Botox. It's never been reported. Nobody's having systemic effects from cosmetic Botox. It's never been reported. So those are the facts. That's what I can tell you. That's what I use in my practice to determine safety of a product is what has been studied. What do the facts show? What do my patients show? What do outcomes show? And I utilize that to provide safe and effective outcomes. So let me know if you guys have any questions below. This was a really fun episode to do. I got to dive deep into the science of Botox today. And again, hopefully you guys feel better about making an informed decision about whether or not to get Botox. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys next week.